In Lecture 2, Price Elasticity of Demand, we are going to be talking about how we determine the shape or actually the slope of the demand curve. And what we're going to find is it has a lot to do with the price sensitivity of buyers. So how sensitive are we to price changes? So let's imagine when we're walking out of the grocery store, every time we go to the grocery store, they have that display of candy there, and let's imagine everything is 50% off. So the gum, the candy bars, everything in there is 50% off. And do we stock up? How many? You might decide, okay, I really like that candy bar. I eat it, once or twice a week. I'm gonna buy a few extra candy bars, or I might buy a few extra packs of gum. But we don't really change our behavior too much, right? We're not gonna go out there and just grab up all of the candy because it went on sale. However, when we see something like our Gamecock sweatshirt that we've had our eye on in the bookstore for a significantly long time start to go on sale. So originally $100, all of a sudden it's slashed in half, $50. Now we don't even go, we go out and we buy those Gamecock sweatshirts for us, but we also get our Christmas presents for everybody else in our family, right? We go out there and we make sure we have birthday presents and Christmas presents for everyone. And so we really significantly change our behavior. And this is what we're talking about. How sensitive are we to price changes? So yeah, I might pick up an extra pack of gum because the price got slashed. But when I see a clearance at the bookstore with all of my favorite gear, I'm really going to go out and really change my behavior and start purchasing those up. I'm much more price sensitive to something like those Gamecock sweatshirts than I am to something like the grocery store checkout aisle candy. So when we're thinking about price elasticity, what we're talking about is how the buyers respond to price changes, and specifically the price changes that occur for that good. So there's going to be different types of elasticity. In this class, we're only going to talk about the product itself, its own elasticity. So when the price of a Gamecock sweatshirt changes, how do the consumers who purchase that sweatshirt change their behavior? And that's how we're responding to price changes. So when consumers are very sensitive to prices, so when I go out and we buy all kinds of goods at the bookstore because there's a clearance, that small change leads to a large change in demand. We call that elastic demand. Elastic demand means that consumers are very responsive to price changes. It means that changing the price will lead to a significant change in the quantity that individuals demand. On the other hand, when sometimes consumers don't change the quantity they demand, or they only make slight changes, we call that inelastic demand. Those consumers are not sensitive, or they're insensitive to price changes. They don't really notice when price changes, and when they do, they don't really change their behavior. It's not like they go up and they stock up and they have all kinds of extra lying around. Or if the price increases, it's not that they just stop buying the product. And so inelastic demand, we're thinking about a lack of response when prices change. All right, so price elasticity is going to influence the slope of the demand curve. And let's talk exactly how that's going to be the case by looking first at the extremes. Oh, actually, before we do that, before we look at actually how it affects the slope, let's see what determines price elasticity of demand. So suppose the following two items double in price. Which will you see a greater change in the quantity demanded? So before we move on and we look at these two goods, I want you to remember that when we're thinking about demand, it's only the individuals who are willing and able to purchase the product. So they have to be in the market. They have to be able to want to purchase the product and also have the ability to purchase the product. All right, so let's suppose that Pepsi doubles their price for a can of pop. And also, the city of Columbia doubles the price of water. So the city of Columbia doubles the price of the water. Pepsi doubles the price of a can of pop. In which case are we going to see a greater change in the quantity of demand? Which are we're going to see consumers respond more? And it's going to be the case that consumers are going to respond more to that change in the price of Pepsi because there's more substitutes available. since there's more substitutes, right? If Pepsi increases their price, I can go buy a Coke, or I can go out and buy a generic store brand. And there are some people who will still be consuming Pepsi. I'm not saying that it's going to be eliminated, but consumers are going to be more responsive. If the city of Columbia increases their water price, I still have to get my water from them. I don't have any other choice. Yes, I might try and cut back my water consumption. Maybe I will cut down the amount of time I'm in the shower, or try not to do as many loads of laundry. But I still need that water. There's no other substitutes out there. I'm not going to go out and buy jugs of water all the time to try and do my dishes. So the amount of substitutes is going to influence the elasticity of demand. And so in the case where we have a lot of substitutes, something like a can of Pepsi, that's going to have more substitutes and it's going to have more elastic demand. Water, City of Columbia water, that's going to have more inelastic demand because we don't have a lot of substitutes for that product. All right, let's look at another example. So let's think that we're in the market to purchase a new vehicle and we decided we want a Subaru. So Subarus in general, or a black Subaru Forester. So let's suppose that all Subaru cars increase in price. All of them double their price. And then let's assume that it's only going to be the black Forester that doubles in price. In which case are we going to see a greater change in the quantity demanded? We're going to see a greater change in the quantity demanded for the black Forester, because I can get, if it's only the black Forester that doubles in price, I can get a blue Forester, or I can get a red Forester, or I can change the type of vehicle I'm getting to one of their cars, or a different SUV. And so I can change my behavior based on the fact that this is such a specific, narrow market. If all Subarus change their price, yes, I could go out and buy a different automobile, but when we're comparing these two, the more specific your market, the more elastic the demand. So when we're thinking about this, let's actually bring up my pen here if I can. So when we're thinking about elasticity, the black Forester is going to have the most elastic demand. And then as we move over and we say all Subaru vehicles, that's going to have a little bit less elastic of demand. And then as we move over and just look at the car market in general, or the SUV or the crossover, whatever you want to say, that if we're in the market for that type of a vehicle, it's going to have the least out of these three categories. It's going to have the least elastic or the most inelastic demand. Okay, so as we make our statement more broad, or we get a broader category, that's going to make our demand more inelastic, because I don't have many options. If I'm in the market to buy a car, I know I need to buy a car. Then if all cars in the market double, I don't really have a choice. But if the price of just the black Forester doubles, I can decide to purchase another Subaru, or I can purchase another different type of car. So this is kind of getting back at this idea of substitutes. So the more specific your market, the more specific, if I'm talking about Gap clothing, very specific. If all Gap prices double, that's going to have very elastic demand. But if I say clothing in general doubles in price, that's going to have more inelastic demand, because I need to wear clothes. I don't have a lot of other options. All right, so let's look at another example here. So a Twix candy bar, or just let's say candy bars in general, either way, or a Samsung washer and dryer. Which one do you expect? So Twix candy bar, let's say it sells for $1 and it doubles in price. or a Samsung washer and dryer, and the cost is $700, doubles in price to $1,400. In which case will we see a greater change in the quantity demanded? So in this case, we have both very specific brands. So yes, there are other brands. So don't think about that part. But in which case are we going to see people responding in a greater way? And remember, you have to be willing and able to purchase these products. It's going to be the case that we are going to respond more when the percentage of our income is greater. The more elastic the demand, the more elastic demand occurs when it's going to cost us more. So if I'm planning on saving up for a washer and dryer, $700, and all of a sudden the price increased to $1,400, I'm going to have to save up longer. It's going to take us more time to save up for that product, and so I might decide, okay, I'm going to go to the laundromat for another year, or however I'm going to save up for that product. It's going to take me longer, and so I'm going to decrease the quantity that I demand quite significantly. The candy bar, however, if I see that go up in price, if it goes from $1 to $2, I might not buy it every time I go through the checkout line, but I might buy it every other. So again, thinking about your percentage of income and how long it's going to take you to save up for that product, and what are your alternatives as well. So we're still at the substitute. So I do have substitutes. I can go to the laundromat for this for this laundry set, but it is going to take me longer to save up if I actually wanted the product. So I'm going to change my behavior more due to the higher percentage of our income. All right, our next example, the price of the following two items doubles in price. Connect, so Connect is the piece of the course that is required for the course, and I already know it's expensive, so we definitely do not want it to double in price. But if Connect doubles in price, and a text or a book, Freakonomics, which is just a book that is a great resource to have when you're thinking about economics and you want to learn more about economics. I highly recommend you read it after the course just to see really what economists do. But suppose both of these double in price, in which will we see a greater change in demand? Well, Connect is necessary for the course, and so there's not going to be a great change in demand. It's relatively inelastic. You need Connect in order to pass the course, and so that's considered a necessity for the course. And so even if the price doubles, you're still going to have to purchase the product, and so the quantity demanded is not going to change much. However, for Freakonomics, that book, if it doubles in price, well, that's just an optional fun book to read after the course that I recommend. And so if it doubles in price, then we have very elastic demand for that. We don't need to purchase it. And so it's a luxury item in this case, and it's going to have more elastic demand. So necessities are going to have more inelastic demand. Luxury items, more elastic demand. All right, so let's keep going forward here and starting to think about gasoline today. So let's say the price of gasoline today doubles versus the price of gasoline 1 year from now. So both the gasoline today, so let's say it's $2 a gallon, it doubles to $4 a gallon. And 1 year from now, it's $2 a gallon, but we know 1 year from now it's going to be $4 a gallon. In which case are we going to start to see us change the quantity we demand more? Well, today, I still have to drive to the grocery store, I still have to go to work, and I still have to get home from school. And so I can't change my behavior. I still need to fill up my tank. My tank is on E. I need to stop at the gas station and fill it up. I can't do anything about that. But 1 year from now, if I know gas is going to be expensive, I might start to change my behavior. I might try to find a more fuel-efficient car or even an electric car. I might decide to move closer to work or school. I might decide to move closer to my family. And so as time passes, as we know ahead of time that prices are going to change in the future, we can adjust our strategy over time, and we can make those changes to quantity. So the more inelastic demand will occur today, but in the future, as we continue down the road, our demand will become more elastic. We can make more changes. We're more sensitive to price the further down the road we go. All right, so when you're thinking about price elasticity of demand, make sure you think about the substitutes. Do these products have substitutes? And along with that, how narrowly or broadly are the products defined? Then we can think about the percentage of our income. The greater cost to the product, the more of our income that's going to be consumed by this product means that we're going to have more elastic demand for this product. If a product is a luxury item, so if we're talking about a luxury boat, or if we're talking about jewelry, very luxury items, and those are going to have more elastic demands than something like a necessity. So a life-saving drug, or cigarettes for a smoker, very inelastic demand. And then finally, our time horizon. So the longer we have to make those adjustments, the more sensitive we can be to prices. All right, so now let's think about the drastic differences. So what if something is said to be perfectly inelastic? Perfectly inelastic means that consumers are completely insensitive to prices. They don't care what the price is. So for me, this is a cup of coffee. I need to have at least 3 cups of coffee a day. I have some young kids. They cry at night, and so I need to have 3 cups of coffee to keep me going during the day. And so it doesn't matter what the price is, I'm going to have to purchase those coffees. And so it doesn't matter if the price is going to be $1, I'm going to buy 3 cups of coffee. If it's $3, doesn't matter, I still need 3 cups of coffee. And if it's $5, I still want 3 cups of coffee. And so my demand for coffee is perfectly inelastic. And I am completely I'm not sensitive to prices whatsoever. I'm insensitive to prices. It doesn't matter what the price is, I always consume 3 cups of coffee. And this is a perfectly inelastic demand curve. Okay, and one hint that I'm going to give you, which I think is pretty useful, when we're thinking about inelastic demand, what I want you to see is that inelastic demand kind of looks like an I, right? An I for inelastic demand. All right, and so inelastic demand is just that vertical line up from the quantity at which that individual will consume. All right, what about perfectly elastic demand? Perfectly elastic demand is going to tell us it doesn't matter, all that matters is price. All that matters is the price of the product. If the price of the product is set perfectly, I will consume an unlimited amount of that product. And so let's assume that that price is $3. If that price is $3 in the market, if I am going to consume an unlimited amount, right? An unlimited amount, and our demand curve is going to be perfectly horizontal. Okay, we're going to have a perfectly horizontal demand curve. If the price starts to go above $3, let's say it's $3.50, the quantity I demand is going to go to 0. No seller is ever going to charge less than $3, so we don't have to worry about anything below. But any price that would be above $3 means that I wouldn't demand the product at all. And so we can see that we have this perfectly elastic demand curve. I'm so sensitive to price that even raising it 50 cents is going to drive my quantity demanded down to 0. All right, and I want you to see here, if we just kind of draw in a little bit, we can see that that perfectly elastic demand curve draws an E. Just a little hint. So we have, I don't know how that happened. We have the I for perfectly inelastic and the E for perfectly elastic. All right, so remember, we're thinking about price sensitivity. So an example of a perfectly elastic demand, this would be when we're thinking about that farmer's market and that perfectly competitive market. I have perfectly elastic demand for that one farmer's tomato at the farmer's market. If all farmers are charging $3, but one farmer charges $4, nobody's going to want to buy a tomato from that farmer. But if he charges the equilibrium price, that $3 price, that market price, then he's going to have however many people in the market that there are coming to his shop. And so that's what we're thinking about when we're thinking about perfectly elastic demand. All right, but as with everything that we've talked about so far, those are the two extremes. And so not everything is going to be that extreme. Most goods are going to fall in these in-between categories. So not perfectly elastic, but we can look at a good that would be elastic in nature. And so we still have our buyers being very sensitive to prices. Oh, I must have hit the wrong thing. We still have an elastic demand, meaning that buyers are very price sensitive. So when the price of the product dropped from $2 to $1, so it got cut in half, people drastically changed the amount that they consumed. They consumed 30 more units. As opposed to in our second graph here, when the price changed from $4 to $1, so this is a much bigger drop in price, consumers didn't change their behavior hardly at all. There was very small changes in their behavior, even though there was a drastic drop in price. All right, so let's look at some examples of both elastic and inelastic goods. So something that would be considered inelastic are newspapers. And a lot of students I hear automatically say, newspapers. Nobody buys newspapers anymore, so how is that inelastic? But think about who does buy newspapers. So my grandma is one person that relies on a newspaper. She wants to have a newspaper delivered to her every day. She has to read, and I'm from a small town, so it's got all the local gossip in there. It's got the obituaries, all the important information that she needs. It doesn't matter what the price is. She is willing and able to purchase that product. It's very inelastic demand. Remember, I don't want a newspaper. I don't purchase any newspapers. It doesn't matter if they were giving them away for free. I still would say, why do I need that newspaper? I'm just going to Google anything that I want to know. And so I'm not in the market, so don't think about yourself if you're not in the market. Think about those who do purchase the product. Okay, electricity, also very inelastic demand. Not very many substitutes for the product, a necessity, all of those things working towards it being a inelastic product. Okay, then we can look at the other side, fresh peas. Most elastic. Why would fresh peas have very elastic demand? Well, first of all, we have very elastic demand because there are many substitutes. There's canned peas, frozen peas, there's fresh carrots, right? We can think about all the substitutes that exist for fresh peas. That's going to drive it to be very elastic. Lamb, mutton, restaurant meals, residential land, starting to think about the luxury items as well. So the more luxury the items, the more elastic the demand. Okay, so you can see in there we have a variety of different elasticities. The left-hand column, most inelastic. The right-hand column, most elastic. All right, so make sure you go over those determinants. There's going to be some extra practice in your more practice folder that's going to allow you to double check your knowledge and understanding on can you identify if a good is going to be price elastic or price inelastic. Good luck.